Hi, thanks for tuning into the channel. Today's subject is seeing if we can improve the rideability of the GasGas 2023 250 by changing the gearing. Now, how does a noob like me have any input on gearing? Well, we'll get into that in a minute, but as you can see by the chilly weather here, it's now freezing up in Canada and we're getting some snow. Unfortunately, the weatherman beat the delivery man, and the sprockets arrived a little late, but so I missed out on some of the sections that I could do, or I have been doing, but I can do some stuff here in the yard, in the backyard, around the corner here, and I've been doing some riding and give myself an idea of the gearing change. So let's get into it. So the idea came from, before I got the bike, I went to a local trial, and I also went to a couple practice days with the local trials people. Apart from being extremely friendly and nice guys, they were also really generous in encouraging me to try their different bikes. I tried a couple of older GasGas, tried a Sherco, tried a brand new TRS, and one of the bikes that stuck out the most was a very recent Beta 250. Now, there was a bunch of things I liked on the Beta, and I really considered getting one before I found this, but one of the things that I really liked on the Beta was how low the gearing was. When I got my bike, I realized that the gearing is quite a bit higher, and what that meant is at low speed I found the bike harder to maneuver without that smoothness of the gear. I was starting to use the clutch to control the speed as opposed to letting the bike flow naturally with its speed. So there's a couple of options. We can either change the rear sprocket, as you can see, because there's a stock one, or we can change the front sprocket. One of the reasons I didn't want to change the front sprocket, although I'll show you the numbers anyways, is that it gets rather small, and secondly, this angle here changes. So as you can see, I'm wearing gloves. The angle changes, and I didn't want to go too small on there. Already I think the 10 is a pretty small front sprocket, based on experience with bikes like my Honda and so on, that I didn't want to change that. Now, what I did is I put into a spreadsheet I'll put that up on the screen here. I put up the gearing of the Beta versus the GasGas. You'll also see that there's a Montesa in there as well, because my dad was looking at getting a Montesa, and we wanted to compare that while I was doing all the gear info. So what I did is I took the primary reduction, the transmission, the final drive, and then the wheel circumference, and that gave a certain miles per hour I chose 1100 RPM because I believe that's the what I saw in the manual. That's the recommended idle speeds, 900 to 1100 RPM, and I put in 1100 RPM just to compare between the different bikes. Even though the Montesa might be different as a four-stroke, it gives you some kind of idea what the internal gearing is at a specific RPM. And what I did find was that the Beta was quite a bit lower geared than the GasGas. The GasGas has slightly tighter ratios, and also in doing research like that, I found in the UK a popular mod, probably on these new bikes as well, but it was very popular on the 22s and older, was that they would put a low compression head, they would put a flywheel weight, and they would change gearing to 1042. Now that 1042, as you'll see in the chart here, that matches up with second gear on the Beta. I thought that was a good place to start, and based on that info from the UK, that kind of convinced me that that's where I wanted to start. Now, when changing the rear sprocket, you have to consider that you're going to need to add links. If you don't, you're either going to run completely out of wheelbase, and as the bike is brand new, I didn't want to just throw away a new chain, so I went the cheap way and I bought a link and a half, what you can see here, and that would change the stock chain from 100 links to 103, and that made the wheelbase too long. So that brought me back. I'd only had one cam notch left before I would have run out, so that's changing drastically the handling of the bike as well. So I didn't want to do that drastically. It's changing the handling of the bike. So what I ended up doing is adding a single link, and you can see the two split links here are back to back, and I added a single link, and that got me the basically the same wheelbase as 1039 stock gearing with the 100 link chain. Now with a 1042, 102 gets me 2 cam notches longer in wheelbase. So very, very close enough for what I'm doing. And that was it. Change is very simple. Just change 4 bolts on the sprocket, add the links, and then reset your chain tension, and you're off. So that was really simple. And the whole object was to improve the rideability. Now, I could, like I said, when we were outside, I couldn't ride all the sections I had been riding. My area is now pretty icy and snow covered, so unfortunately it's not as good to get back there to do the work or to do the comparison. But riding around in the yard, I could definitely feel the difference. Changing to the lower gear made maneuverability around tight objects much simpler. It was a matter more of weighting the pegs, of input, and getting through the tighter section or the tighter obstacle without having to work so much with the clutch. And what I found with the 1039 was I was either going too fast and losing the front end, going too slow, popping out the clutch, spinning the rear wheel, or just losing balance and having to put a foot down. Now it's much easier to keep balance at the lower speed. I can do the maneuvering. One particular place is I do a really tight corner on a off camber. So I start downhill, turn on the off camber, and then come back up the hill. This is so much easier now with the lower gearing. You can really feed in the clutch. Clutch is now used to add drive or take drive away, as opposed to trying to gauge the speed. And I found that that's a big improvement. So I don't know why GasGas sends these bikes out with 1039. They've been doing that for a long time. Maybe if you know, you can let me know and fill me in, because I'm not quite sure why they've been doing that. So please, inform me, because I don't really get it. But I've also looked at quite a few videos from the GasGas and the factory riders, or even when they're doing demos, I often see that they have a different color sprocket on, and it does look larger than the 1039. So an improved rideability, it's definitely something I would recommend, especially for a beginner, because it really improves the low speed maneuverability of the bike, and you're concentrated on where your positioning is more than trying to feed in the speed with the clutch. So if you have any comments, anything I said that's wrong, please let me know, because I'm learning, and we learn more as a community and by sharing information. And give me some feedback on that. But the gearing change I thought was a big change, and a very positive one. Next question is, did I go enough? I chose this 1042, which doesn't line up with the Beta first. Maybe I should have chose 1043 or 1044. And maybe you can let me know in the comments what your gearing is and why you found that to be better, different, whatever. We can share some information here, and we can all learn a little bit more. So great change. I've done a couple of other little things after I did the gear. I'll get into those in another video. And also slightly improve the rideability, surprised me, but I'll get to those at another time. But for the time being, gearing change, highly recommended. I went 1042. Let me know what you did, and we can share some information. Thanks for tuning into the channel. Always appreciate the feedback. You guys have been really, really good with the other videos that I've done. And I appreciate that. It encourages me to do more, and it's all part of my learning process. So thanks a lot. Take care, and see you all again soon.